On today's episode of Beyond Resilience, our hosts, Dr. Jamie Renbarger and Catherine Haffey, are exploring the question, how do I tell my family and friends about my diagnosis?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right, we are back with Beyond Resilience and have another big topic for today.
So good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you, Catherine.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. So today our plan, right, is to share information with you and our perspectives and what we know about how to communicate your cancer diagnosis with the people in your life, with friends, with family, with coworkers, with your boss, and how to, how you might think about asking for support or asking for what you need in each of those areas. And we'll probably touch a little bit on ideas for what kind of support might be helpful. Yeah?
Sounds great.
All right. So with that, Catherine, any thoughts on where we should start?
Well, I think we just got to start from the beginning, and that's just pretty much when you've had your diagnosis and you've told maybe your spouse, and now it's time to embark upon telling the rest of your family, including your children and all the important people around you. I think sure. In telling your children, I can speak for me personally. I had a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. So they were able to understand. They weren't little. They were able to understand. And I believe that telling them the whole cancer story is super important. You don't have to share every single tiny detail. I didn't. But I wanted them to see the story. And I also wanted them to know this was going to be a finite period of treatment. So it wasn't like I was going to have to be in treatment forever, but that it was going to end at some point. I was going to have to go through some testing, and that's perfectly normal because it helps the doctor see what I have and to treat, me better. But I think sharing that story in its entirety as a story about your diagnosis as much as you can is important because kids understand in stories. So, and I believe that this would probably be important when kids are younger as well. You don't have to share any, the details, but you do, I believe, would want to share the story with them as much as they're able to understand.
Absolutely. And certainly I think we both recognize that everyone may have their own personal and even cultural beliefs and ideas about right. what would be appropriate for your family
exactly.
system and family unit.
Exactly.
And I think from our perspectives, being open and being honest
right.
and sharing whatever level of detail is developmentally appropriate for the different members of your family.
Yes.
Can be a very positive thing and in fact a very important thing. One thing I want to point out related to this, right, is that that not only is the person diagnosed a cancer survivor, but those individuals who are close to you are also considered cancer survivors, at least by the National Cancer Institute.
Yes,
right?
That's so true.
And that is to say, and I think that's really a recognition that the cancer journey involves not only the person with the disease, but also those who are closest to them.
So true.
So the impact of a cancer diagnosis on a spouse, on a child, on a parent, on your loved ones is profound.
Yes.
It's significant. And so communicating, sharing as much as you're able to, as much as you're comfortable with, and you believe to be appropriate for that individual is so key. And then ensuring, and the focus of our conversation today is really going to be on support for the individual with cancer.
Right.
And before we move on with that, I just want to make sure to highlight that getting support and having support for your supporters, for your caregivers, for your family members is also critical. And Catherine, I'm curious about your experience with this, but your children likely needed support as well. And
Right.
And while you as a parent, certainly, at least I can imagine for myself as a parent, I gravitate to wanting to be the person to provide that support. And I would imagine that that you maybe weren't always in a place to provide the support that your kids and your husband needed.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. It is important. And first of all, let me preface, there's no wrong or right way in having this conversation with your family. I think you have to use your intuition, what feels right to you, and that's what you have to go with, regardless of what your oncologist says or your best friend or your mom or whoever. You really have to listen to your own intuition and use that as your guide to how much you're going to share with your family, with your children. And I totally agree with you, Jamie, what you're saying, because you made such a great point about when it touches your children, it really touches the people who are supporting our children, right? So when I was going through chemo, for example, I really didn't want, as a coach, I worked with them on the tennis court, and I really didn't want them to see me sick and not feeling very well. And it usually followed the day after. I really didn't feel very well. And so their tennis coach was kind enough to keep them overnight at their tennis training facility and keep them at their home and feed them dinner. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to say, yes, I need this help. And that is so kind and nice of you to be able to step up and help me out. Even though I really didn't want them to have to do that. I knew it was the best and right thing for me, and so that I can help them. And that ended up being a great resource. So I would encourage you all that if you have your parents or friends who are maybe offering to keep the kids overnight while you're in treatment, it's not a bad idea, to really say yes to help or meals or rides or anything that you might need, especially during those days where you're in treatment and you're really not feeling very well. And you're listening to your body enough to know that I really shouldn't be pushing myself. I really do need to recover from this. Then this is when it really does take a village and a team to help you get to be your healthiest self. We need to relinquish that role to other people to come in and say, yes, thank you. Thank you for being a blessing to me and helping me. It's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. So important. And so what I hear you saying is that for you, your support network included not only friends and family, but also people to help in providing support for your kids during really key points in your treatment. Mm-hmm. And I think the take home here, right, is to allow yourself to be cared for, to allow yourself to accept support, to be nurtured when you need it. And to allow people to help, because so many people want to be able to provide help and support for you.
They do. And if along those lines, it is probably a good idea to have a friend who is a close friend who you share your journey with, and allow them to be an advocate. If you don't want to tell certain people, allow them to say, hey, would you mind reaching out and making these phone calls for me? Would you mind accompanying me to an infusion center? Would you mind taking the kids to school or my dogs for a walk? Or would you mind grabbing some food? I'm going to get home late tonight after my infusion or after work, and I know I'm going to be tired. And allowing people to be able to help you with this is super important. It's super humbling. And I think that adds an element of gratitude, which can play into our health, right? When we have more gratitude in our life, it's been shown that we're actually helping our immune system get healthier. And that is so important. We want to do everything that we can to boost our immune system to try to beat this disease.
Absolutely. So, so important. Yeah. So I hear you bringing up a lot of important points and ideas that hopefully will be helpful to people listening, right? That is, having and identifying a close friend or a small group of friends who can take turns in accompanying you to some of your harder visits, to your infusions, to be with you, to provide support, to listen, and I think importantly to be with. Things like meals, support for your pets, for your kids. Those are all things that are fair game, right? And to take some time to really think about or sit with a friend to think about what does each day look like and where might there be gaps and needs that the people in your community can help in providing for you.
Absolutely. And another idea is, including that friend advocate to even help with the kids so that you can go out to dinner with your spouse if you haven't been able to do that, or just take them out so that you're able to sit home with your spouse if you're not able to do that, just to have some quiet one-on-one time that maybe is not around a hospital visit or something of the like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that's coming up for me, right, as you're talking about kids and communication around kids and all of that, is to really have awareness of the impact on your entire family unit. Mm-hmm. And in the case of your children, for those of you who have children who are dependents, thinking about people in their lives, parents of their friends, teachers, coaches, others, who your child may not feel comfortable talking with themselves about what's going on, but who, if they are aware and you're comfortable and able to have conversations with some of them about what may be going on and how your kids may be feeling and how your family unit is functioning. Right now under stress and with a need for support, that those kinds of conversations and just raising awareness in your broader community, as much as you're comfortable with, can be really, really important in people providing support and having an understanding for what's happening with you and having grace and an openness to how each of you, right, to how you and your kids and your spouse may show up in different kinds of environments. So with
That's
a little
so
more anxiety or sadness or overwhelm than would be typical for them.
Absolutely. So this could be teachers, coaches, friends, and you will not want the word necessarily to get out like wildfire, but it will. And I think to be prepared for that. And it's not like, if we assume people aren't necessarily gossiping, but they are talking. And, the more that you can communicate or in the way that you would like to communicate, whatever is comfortable and best for you and serves you, just know that when you can receive other people's well wishes, some of it may, they really don't know what to do and what to say. And so just to kind of know that it's difficult on their end as well to be like, okay, how do I navigate this new friendship? What does that look like? And so it's helping you, but it's also helping your children in that next layer of support that's out there, and people that are going to find out, your kids' soccer team's coach or whatever that happens to be. You have to think kind of broadly. And do you want to tell them yourself? Do you want your advocate to tell them? Or do you want them to hear through the grapevine? Because it's just how life works. It will happen. So just know that, tell the people who are close to you who you want them to hear from you firsthand, and think outside going from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Catherine, as we sit here and we have this conversation, I find myself thinking about kind of what any of those individual conversations might have been like for you, and I'm wondering if you would be willing to share maybe what one of those conversations was like, even sort of the specific words you used in almost like a role play kind of experience, just
Sure.
for our listeners to really know what might they say if they're struggling with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's there's no wrong or right way, so just know that. And I think honesty is kind of always the best policy. So if you can be direct, and sometimes it involves tears, in telling some of your friends, and that's okay. I have cancer. I wanted you to know that I've been diagnosed with cancer, and letting them respond. And that response may not be your expected response, because but you are both going into navigating new roles in your life that you've never done before. So I just remember not really knowing what to expect, other than I just knew that I needed to share this information, and then I would share my treatment with them if I knew it. I felt comfortable with that. So what the next year kind of looked like, and then allowing them to respond in a way, well, how may I help you? Or, boy, that's really tough. Or, what would you like me to do? Those are amazing responses. They may not happen. It may be like, well, I had a time when I really had a hard time in my life that happened to me, and you're thinking, oh, like you have no idea. Right?
I do not need this right now. Exactly.
But it will happen. It will happen. People are trying to empathize with you, and you're like, oh, ay. But it will happen. It's just part of life, and there again, we're playing different new roles right now. But to be super honest and direct, I think is the best. And whatever positivity you're feeling, that you want to, it's going to be okay. And it's almost like it's not even for you, but it's for your friend. Like it's going to be okay. I remember going into my PET scan. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I would say that. I wasn't sure if it was going to be okay or not, but I was hoping it would. And so I'm going to speak the words anyways, because I'm believing when I speak to them, I'm going to feel better. And I did. Versus like, oh, but if you're fearful, and you need to honor that. And that's okay. If you're angry, you're angry. And, you have those appropriate emotions to the closest people around you. They can wrap their arms around you, and you can kind of share in it together, because it's a new thing. You're navigating a new thing together, and both of you have not been through this before, or you might have. I don't know, maybe through a close friend or relative, who happens to have gone through that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, because then they know how to navigate it a little bit more, but you might not.
Yeah. You bring up such important points, and I just want to reflect and share, even though you were role playing, or we were role playing in that moment, just the goosebumps that I got as you said those words, and that you've been diagnosed with cancer, and it just, I think, for me, gave me perspective, a renewed perspective, that the words themselves are going to impact the person who you're talking with, and sometimes in ways that you might not have predicted. Everyone has their own experience, and so to go in openly and honestly, and to be there for whatever comes up, right?
Right.
And I think as you were talking, the other thing that crossed my mind was you may not, in that moment of that initial sharing conversation, you may not really know what your needs are going to be. And certainly you probably won't be able to predict what they'll be throughout this journey. And so when people ask, I mean, just to be open and honest with wherever you are in that moment. And that maybe, I don't really know what I need yet.
Exactly.
But I so appreciate your support, and I will let you know when those things come up. So.
And then let them know.
Yes.
You know, make sure you bring them in. I think most of our friends need direction.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to proceed. So they're looking for guidance from us. And
Absolutely.
I think if we can allow them to help us help them, then it ends up being working very nicely for everybody. And it's a blessing for you all, for us all, who have gone through this together.
So you bring up such an important point, right? And that is that we may not be able to predict our friends and families' responses and others, and in fact, everyone going through cancer is on a unique journey, and so everyone's needs are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, so I think to be to allow yourself to be as open and honest and comfortable as you can, asking for what you need, because people do want to support you. So
They do. And it's hard sometimes, you know, if we're introverted, it's really difficult to have those conversations. But I would encourage you all to kind of stretch yourself and have that conversation with the close advocate or friends that, if need to, they need to go out and advocate for you. But having a support system is really, really important during this time. Yeah. You'll just feel better. And even if you don't use them very much, because you got, you know, kind of the system down, just knowing that you have those people around you is just really healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, one of the things that we mentioned that came up early in our conversation that I just wanted to circle back to is talking with a boss or a coworker.
Right.
And I wonder if kind of what your experience with that was, and if there's anything in particular that you'd like to share related to that.
Well, I can't speak personally because at that point I didn't have a boss, but I can tell you from another perspective that who I was very close to, who did have a boss, and she decided not to disclose her cancer diagnosis or treatment with her boss, and it made her life very, very challenging. They had no idea what she was going through, and she was asked to travel and do things that even a healthy person was pretty challenged to do, let alone a person undergoing a lot of cancer treatment through chemotherapy and then surgery, and she did not have to do radiation. But I think those really took its toll. As we know, chemotherapy is just hard on your body, and the side effects can be extreme. And so to have that open conversation with your coworker, just like you would a friend, and your boss, I think you're going to find honestly that you may receive more support from them now that you've kind of opened up a personal door, a vulnerable side, that they would be more understanding, and that could be really, really an immeasurable help and support when you're working, if they can come alongside you and know what you're going through and better able to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Certainly I know of and can imagine situations that that aren't always positive of sharing news in the workplace. And I think to know that regardless of the outcome of the conversation, it's incredibly difficult to navigate a job, particularly a demanding or full-time job, or as you said, something that might require or necessitate travel or other kinds of interactions that may be impossible during cancer treatment.
Absolutely.
And without an openness with your boss, with your coworkers, accommodations for that just may not be possible. And so knowing that even if there are challenges with the conversation, that not having it can be even more challenging.
Oh, so true. And if you all are afraid or worried about what consequences may happen if you expose this diagnosis to your boss, there's a great website, careersandcancer.com, that we will leave a resource to. We will leave the link in the show notes so that you can check out that resource. They are advocating for you as a cancer patient, what your rights are when speaking to your boss. So it's just a great resource to have if you're worried about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, great resource. So definitely check out the show notes for that. And let us know if there are particular situations, questions, concerns that you want to talk about. Let us know. Please comment. We want to provide the support that you need on this topic that we both consider so important.
Absolutely.
But really our take home is to allow yourself to be supported, to be nurtured, and that allowing really necessitates an openness and an honesty with your entire support network as much as you're able to share. And people in general, there definitely are people out there who want to be able to provide support, and without you telling them, they may not know what you need. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the time that when you make the first move and you're vulnerable and you share something that's very private, you just open yourself up to feel the love that they have for you. Maybe you didn't even know what was there through support and messaging that, just knowing, and all those little things that may not have made a big difference back then will make so much meaning to you now. And again, this is about helping yourself help others, and it really is. I think you'll find it truly rewarding to be able to open up the door to how you feel and your diagnosis being supported and loved.
All right. So with that, we want to thank you for being here, and we want to remind you,
yes,
please give us feedback, rate and review Beyond Resilience, and share with us your needs, your wants, your questions, and spread the word. We're here to help, and the first step to being able to provide help and support is for people to know that we exist. So Thank you so much for your support, for being here, and for sharing the word about Beyond Resilience.
Yeah, like and share, guys. That really, it helps us so much with the algorithms, getting our podcast message out to those who are in need.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Catherine.
You too, Jamie. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
This podcast is here to support you. If you liked it, please rate, review, follow, and share, since that's the best way to grow a community together. Please leave us comments and feedback. We're here to help.